Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Moments away, our guest, Toni Gattone, will be with us. But first, a word from our good friends at Rise Gardens.
Rise Gardens is a revolutionary hydroponic gardening system for your home. Instead of food traveling hundreds or even over 1,000 miles before it hits your plate, harvest the veggies, herbs, and greens you need for dinner tonight in the comfort of your home. No green thumb required knowledge. Gardening made easy with the Rise Gardens app. Step-by-step guidance from seed to harvest. A complete garden on a shelf. And it comes with everything you need to grow healthy and the freshest food for you and your loved ones. Fully customize your garden to your needs and preferences. For more information and get your garden, Rise Garden, visit risegardens.com.
Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
Toni Gattone is known as the Resilient Gardener. She's an author, blogger, speaker, and lifelong gardener. Her book is The Lifelong Gardener, Gardening with Ease and Joy at Any Age. Welcome to the program, Toni.
Thank you so much, Joey and Holly. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, we look forward to speaking with you, and thank you for taking time out of your day and enlightening not only Holly and myself, but all of our listeners.
So
great.
Yeah, thank you. So what sparked your inspiration for your seminar called You Can Garden for Life? And also, why are you known as a resilient gardener?
Well, I had developed an astounding love for gardening, so I became a master gardener here in Marin County. And at graduation, we all sat around talking about ways that we were going to volunteer going forward with the information that we had learned. And I was still kind of stuck to figure out what was my area of expertise that I wanted to share with the community. And just a very short time later, my back went out in a very chronic way. And while I was recuperating, I remembered, I was looking out my window at my roses that needed to be deadheaded and realized that I couldn't get out there to do that I had to find a way to adapt. And in that moment, I remembered an article that I had read and saved on adaptive gardening. So I used the remainder of the time, which was several weeks where I was recuperating from this back injury, researching adaptive gardening. And I realized that I wasn't alone, that 85% of people out there have back pain at some point or another in their lives. And so I wanted to find a way that I could help other gardeners to accept their physical limitations that they may experience and to be able to adapt so they can keep gardening. And I called myself the Resilient Gardener mainly because I knew in my heart that I needed to find a way to become resilient. And when I looked hard and fast at what the word resilience means, is being able to adjust and get past physical challenges, tragedy, loss, and to be able to keep going. And that's kind of what I adapted into my program, You Can Garden for Life, because I really felt that I could help other gardeners find the creative ways to get it done, no matter what was going on in their body.
Well, let's talk about some of those ways for people who may think they can't garden anymore. What can they do to possibly get back into gardening, whether maybe not as what they once did, but to get them back out and being active again?
Sure. Well, I'm a firm believer that you attack the elephant one toenail at a time. I mean, we all used to be able to go out. You know, when I was in my 40s, I could go out and I could garden all day, all weekend, days in a row, and I just can't do that anymore.
Your mind says you can, but your body says you can't.
Right. My mind still thinks I'm 40. My body says, really? You gotta be kidding. So I think it's important to look at, getting back to that elephant one toenail at a time. What can you possibly accomplish today that's realistic in a shorter period of time so that you can pace yourself and get something done, but knowing that you can't do it all, reward yourself at the end with a glass of wine or a cup of tea and appreciate the work that you did do. One of the things that I've done over the years that I love to suggest to friends is when you think you can't garden anymore, invite some friends over to help you. Have a garden party, a garden work party. So in other words, have a couple of projects figured out that you would love some help with, and then feed them. Because every gardener I know loves to eat.
Right.
And we once had a garden party where we served salads with everything fresh from the garden. And we included a basil lavender lemonade.
Oh.
That was a huge hit. And then when a couple of the guests left, we added some vodka to it. And hey, the garden party was a huge success. So that's a way, a couple of ways that they can get back into gardening when they feel like they just can't handle it themselves anymore.
I'm reminded by a phrase that a European allotment gardener uses. He says, do it a little, but do it often.
Yes, exactly. That's what it's all about. One toenail at a time. Yeah. You don't have to do it all today. Yeah. There's always tomorrow.
You want it all done today, but it's a 3-year project, so you got to pace yourself.
Well, sure. Yeah. Sure.
So tell us about your book, The Lifelong Gardener, Garden with Ease and Joy at Any Age. Who would get the most benefit from this book, and what is something that would spark the interest of our listeners to go pick up a copy?
Well, I think, gardeners of all ages can benefit by this book. Even children of gardeners can benefit by this book. I talk to a lot of seniors who, are frustrated that their bodies are changing, yet they want to keep gardening. And, occasionally I get emails from people saying, oh my gosh, I just had a hip replaced. But my caregiver, I'm teaching her how to do my garden so that, I can't bend over to do it, but I can point real well.
Right.
And I'm teaching her to garden for me, and it works out really well. I think more than anything else, I like to suggest intergenerational gardening. My dear friend and photographer for my book, my friend Heidi Hohenberger, she got inspired when I asked her to help me with the photographs. And she started getting back into gardening, thinking that she had given it up. But through the course of our working together, she invited her sister, her niece, and her grandniece over. And they totally planted her garden for her. And they had so much fun learning to garden together. And, at the end, they would have lunch or dinner, and then each of them would divide up their harvests. So it was just a great way for her to be able to introduce the love of gardening and the joy of growing your own food and bringing in bouquets of flowers to decorate your home. She really got back into it as a result of bringing in her family. And I hear from grandparents who love bringing in their grandkids to help them. I mean, why not? They're short. They can do a lot of the things that you would have to bend over to do. So, yeah, bring them on.
So let's talk about that back saving. What are some back saving tips that you can offer, not only the older generation, but everybody? Because if we don't do it right to begin with, we're going to injure ourselves and it won't heal very well for the rest of our lives.
Exactly. Well, I think, the first thing that I would suggest to people is before you go out to garden, warm it up. In other words, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, do some stretching, some yoga, some Tai Chi even turn on some rock and roll and dance for a few minutes as a means to warm up your body. So you're not stiff going out there to begin gardening. And then once you're out there, you go from warming it up to switching it up. And this is where I like to give people the 20-20-20 rule. And this was given to me by a physical therapist who happened to be in one of my seminars. And I asked her if I could use it because I think it was such sage advice, that it's the repetitive movement that we do in the garden that can cause pain. So do what you need to do, do your raking, of the leaves that keep coming down, God bless them, for like 20 minutes, and then put the rake down and maybe get down on your hands and knees if you can. Do some weeding or some planting for about 20 minutes. And then change the muscle groups again. Stand up, do some pruning of flowering shrubs, anything you can do to switch it up so you're not doing the same repetitive movement over and over and over again. And then the third part is what I call garden up. And I'm a firm believer in elevated raised beds, not just raised beds that are 8 or 10 inches on the ground, but elevated, hopefully, to waist high, so that you can plant, tend, and harvest without bending over or getting down on your hands and knees. Gardeners can accomplish the same thing by having wall planters, hanging baskets, or planting on their pergolas and trellises. The main thing is that if you've got back issues, the main thing is to try to find as many ways as you can to stand up when you're gardening, because it's the bending over that just gets to you. So warm it up, switch it up, and garden up.
That's great advice. So for some reason, people often think that gardening has to be this really hard task, and using any sort of aid or helpful tool or making your garden work for you is somehow cheating, or maybe they feel ashamed of themselves for having to do that. Can you give some words of encouragement to help folks feel empowered to make their gardens work for them, and they don't have to, make it a grueling effort, and they can actually enjoy it?
Well, first of all, I really like to encourage people to, come to the understanding that asking for help, there's no shame in that. Asking for help, you'd be surprised how many people are more than happy to help if you would just ask. I know it sounds really simple, but there's a lot of people that are used to being so independent, especially boomers, really independent people that just, God, I can do it all. And we did for years and decades. But you get to that place where you have to say, okay, the thing that I used to love to do, let's say it's, you're done with all your spring planting and you want to spread mulch in order to maintain moisture in the ground. Or you just want to be able to finish how your garden looks when the mulch is all spread, but you can't lift the bags anymore. Go to next door, go to a neighbor and say, do you know of a kid I can hire to just do this for me? And spend a few bucks and have somebody do it for you. Have somebody do the heavy lifting that's become problematic. And then the other thing that I like to suggest to people is you can be empowered when you go into your tool shed. I'm a real tool geek. And I find it really empowering to go in and get rid of tools that don't work anymore. Maybe they're rusted. Maybe they just, they just don't fit your hand anymore. And I like to get rid of things, let go of things that don't work anymore, and find tools that either are multi-purpose or they're just really such a good tool that they really work for you. For example, a reversible kneeler bench. I live in a very, very tiny piece of property. I have 3 reversible kneeler benches because there's always one close by when I do need to kneel down, or I can reverse it. I can turn it upside down and I can sit on it next to a raised bed. That's a multi-purpose tool that can empower you so that you can do whatever you need to do in that moment. And it's kind of the same thing with, I've been doing, I live in California, so we've been doing a lot of firescaping and adapting our landscape to be smart from a wildfire's point of view. And I recently found a ratchet lopper that is my new absolute 100% favorite tool. It's by the Ironwood Tool Company. And this ratchet lopper, it's shorter than a lot of loppers that are on the market. And it's quite lightweight, but it has a 6-way ratchet. So you can take a branch that is 1.5 inches thick and it cuts it without hurting your hand. And to me, that's quite empowering. Also, to be able to stop wrestling with heavy hoses. Give up those heavy rubber hoses and switch to lightweight hoses. And I guarantee gardening and your life in the garden will become easier. And you're going to look forward to it rather than dreading it. That's a big, big part, is finding joy and ease in the garden.
Well, Toni, we greatly appreciate all this information you've given to us. How can our listeners find out more about you, and where can they capture or purchase your book at?
Well, if they can spell my name, they can find me. It's Toni, and the last name is Gattone, Gattone. So they can go to my website, ToniGattone.com, and they can buy a book there, and I will autograph it, make it out to the recipient, and mail it the next day. While they're on my website, they can sign up for my newsletter, and they will automatically receive my free 12-page ebook called The Pathways to Adaptive Gardening. And then I also made it really simple for people to find me on social media, because all of my social media handles, like, Instagram.com, it's followed by /Toni Gattone. Even my YouTube channel ends with my name. So I tried making it as simple as I could for people to find me and follow me, and it seems to be working.
Well, Toni, we thank you so much for the time you've offered us and the education you've provided for Holly and myself. We thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to spread the word.
Absolutely.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.